Former White House press secretary and, of course, author of The Briefing. Sean, who's going to win this battle?
Oh.
You know, I think the pundits totally were in the tank for Hillary Clinton. The idea that Pete is losing to Ed Henry in all of these events, holy smokes. Nate Silver would have been rolling over going, no way.
Yeah,
thanks, Sean. This is great. Appreciate it, bud.
Yeah, expectations were low for me, and I beat him at everything.
Pete, the Army needs to up its game, brother.
Totally.
I know, he's about to be a full-bird colonel, maybe, lieutenant colonel. You don't know. He's a Navy man himself. So, okay, I'll do my best.
Well played, Sean.
Well, Sean, thanks for playing, but we've got a lot of news. And overnight, we hear that 2 top FBI officials are now abruptly resigning. The president's been talking about this for a long time. His critics have been pushing back. But I think his point has been it's time to investigate the investigators. And you saw there Lisa Page mixed up in that texting scandal. And then the anti-Trump text, and James Baker, who is the general counsel. What do you think this says that they're getting out before this Inspector General report comes out?
Well, that's a good thing. Obviously, anybody that doesn't uphold the highest standards of the law and in pursuit of justice needs to go. The men and women of the FBI work throughout this country to uphold the law, and I think that they have a sterling reputation for the most part, and to see these bad eggs tarnish that reputation is not a good thing for the institution, and I'm glad they're getting out of the way. And it further bolsters the president's point that there are people that are out to get him. So I think overall it's a good thing that they're getting out of the way, but I think that justice still needs to be served, and we look forward to seeing what the IG says.
All right. Well, NBC News, on another note, was in some hot water earlier this week for reporting on a story that Michael Cohen, the president's attorney, was wiretapped that turned out to be not true. Here is the tweet. They said a great public servant. Can we pull that back on the screen?
That was a tweet from Comey. Yep.
That was a tweet from Comey. So we are talking about NBC now. Sorry about that, Sean. So
right, that's the Baker one.
So your response, though, to how the media is, they jump so quickly to report a story. How often we've seen so far this administration, they've had to retract, they've had to apologize.
Well, it's fascinating to me that when the media screws up, and in this case they screwed up big time, in their pursuit of going after President Trump, their instinct after they screw up is just to say the story's been updated. But when the situation is fluid at the White House and facts are coming out, and Sarah or myself back in the day went out and tried to give them the best that we could at the time, we're called liars. When they do it, it's called an update, and there's no apology, there's no regret. And I think that is a very interesting double standard by which they do their job. If somebody else updates the facts as they come out, they're a liar. If they do it themselves, it's called an update. And I think that this is an embarrassment for NBC, as it has been in the past for so many other news organizations that have jumped the gun.
Such a great point. Semantics matter. So if a politician does something, they're lying. If a journalist does something, then they update or correct. That's what I believe Chuck Todd and Tom Winter said. Listen to what they said in their correction.
Earlier today, NBC News reported that there was a wiretap on the phones of Michael Cohen. But we've got a correction to that now. It's not a wiretap where they're listening into the phone calls.
We reported that there was a wiretap on Michael Cohen's phone, meaning that they were able to listen into conversations from phone lines associated with Michael Cohen. Now 3 senior U.S. officials are telling us that this is it was not a wiretap. Instead, it was what is referred to as a pen register. In plain English, that means it's a log of phone calls that were made.
And it's always 3 anonymous U.S. officials, so there's no accountability on where the information comes from as well.
Correct. Well, further, there's no accountability. You know, as we said, when they screw up, it's just they say that we're updating the story and they move on. When somebody else does it, they continue to question their integrity, although they may have gone out with the best intentions to give the facts that were available at the time. So I do think it's fascinating, the double standard that exists.
Sean, you've been in that briefing room. You know, it can get hot in there sometimes. And Sarah Sanders.
You've been in there, too.
Yeah, I've been in there. It gets a little interesting. And Sarah Sanders went back and forth with someone that you had some exchanges to as well, April Ryan. Watch this.
Blindsided. You said yourself you were blindsided.
I actually didn't use that term.
Well, I said it, but you were blindsided from what you said.
Well, with all due respect, you actually don't know much about me in terms of what I feel and what I don't.
And then April Ryan, I don't want to drag this on, but look at what she did with that. Seemed to take it to a whole nother level. Watch.
It was not personal. What it shows me is that she was feeling that she was in a vice, you know, of sorts. But she went straight to me to say something like, you know, you don't know me. In certain sectors of this nation, people understand what you don't know me means. It's very street, and it leads to a fight, a physical fight. So I'm not there to fight. I'm there to ask questions. Been doing it for 21 years very well. And I've had relationships with press secretaries. I just don't seem to understand why these last two press secretaries like to point me out.
Sean, what say you? Because she's suggesting that maybe you and Sarah Sanders have something with April.
A street fight, Sean.
I'm not. We're going to disarm here. Look, I think that both Sarah and I have shown April a ton of respect. One of the things that I did when I went into the briefing room was that I increased the number of journalists that I called on, going to the back of the room, going to niche publications, going to ethnic publications, because I believed that it was important for the American people through the briefing to hear more journalists ask questions from a different background that represented different constituencies from America. So, you know, I think it's interesting that April, who's probably, my guess would be, has been called on more in the last by myself and Sarah than any previous press secretary, is looking at that as an insult. In fact, I think it's a compliment. And I think when you look at the nature of the question she asked, she literally starts off by saying, you say you were blindsided. Sarah never actually said it. And then April turns that into a story in itself. I think the bigger question is, why can't she just ask a straightforward question and ask for a straightforward
Sean, why
answer?
do you think she's doing that? Why does she want to start a fight?
I don't think she wants to start a fight, but look, by her own admission, she's been in the briefing room for 21 years, and it's not just her, but there's a lot of other reporters that, because of the attention the briefing gets now, have gotten newfound notoriety. Sure. Suddenly, after April engaged in a bunch of back and forth, she gets a CNN contract, as have many other reporters who have created sort of YouTube viral moments, not because of the content of the reporting, but because they became some kind of sensation through a back and forth. What that tells me is they're more interested in personal fame, right?
Sean, this is an honest question. You've been in that briefing room, as Ed mentioned. Do these reporters actually still believe that they're arbiters of fairness and balance and truth? Or is there, has it set in at all that they may be biased or extremely biased against this White House, and it comes out in the way they question?
Well, there's some that definitely fit that bill, and I wouldn't paint it with a broad brush, because there are some journalists in there that are really committed to doing a great job and focusing on the facts and solid journalism and storytelling. But I think that there are several that have realized that they can get newfound fame. So there's two things that are going on in the briefing room. One is that there is definitely people with a personal agenda against this president and against conservatives. Second, I think there are several of them that, regardless of their personal bias ideologically, realize that they can make more money and more fame by being obnoxious and creating viral moments in the briefing room. So I think that those combinations of things have really changed the nature of the briefing room.
Yeah, Sean, I think it's a great point. For some people, it's become less about the story and more about them personally. It's unfortunate that that has to happen. But Sean, always good to have you on the show.
Yep.
Thanks, Sean.
We're looking forward to the book.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, Pete, thanks for the plug, but Pete, during the break, you got to do some push-ups or something. I mean, get ready.
I'll do it for you right now, Sean.
Uh-oh, wait, you're off camera. People can't see.
I know, but I'm doing them. There we go.
I wish they could see it.
Sean Spicer says he wants push-ups. He gets a few push-ups.
This is one time where the Navy is tweaking the Army.
Hey, he outranks me.
Love it.
Thank you, Sean.
All right.
Thank you, Sean.
Take care, Sean.
All right, we have some other news we are following closely this morning. Starting on a serious note with a Fox News alert, an Indiana police officer shot and killed while investigating a homicide case. Officers approaching the suspect at an apartment complex when the man opened fire, causing a shootout with police. Watch.
He's got his muzzle out, blinking window. He's got a rifle. He's pointing it at us. Get good cover.
The suspect killed in that gunfire. The fallen officer, a veteran of the Terre Haute Police Department, has not yet been identified. We'll keep a close eye on that one. Also, Vice President Mike Pence's personal physician is stepping down. Dr. Jennifer Penna